All right, hello everyone. My name is Disc, and in this video we have a 19 Everbloom. This is a viewer lesson coming to us from Medify, and for the week we are tyrannical, incorporeal, and spiteful. Okay, let's just pause right here for a second. So our priest is Noxile, and I just want to disclaim at the start of this video, the way he put it was, please lay into me. I want to learn. Don't hold back with your critiques. And I'm here to help. So I have previewed this video and I saw a lot of things we can talk about. I think you're doing a lot of things right. Actually, I think you're really on the right track. And hopefully with having me kind of point you in a new direction and kind of like point out some things you're not doing that well, hopefully that is all you need to start making these corrections on your own. So anyway, let's just look at talent since we have these open. Let me see. So when I was looking at this earlier, there was only one point that I would say I have a problem with. And you have a wasted point right here in Disease Dispel. You just do not need it this week in Everbloom. You just don't need it. So for an example, you could put that in the 10% DR with Fade. That is a really good button, I think. And although you might not need it in a 19, we need to practice as if we're in a 25. So something like the 10% DR is really helpful when you start learning to use it. Pro tip, I have Desperate Prayer and Fade on the same keybind. They don't have a global, so you can keybind those together. And it's really easy to use, just having one button. And then other than that, I was pretty happy with everything here. We have Wheel and Woe, Mindbender. Let's just go forward a little bit. I really did want to focus on your UI. So I think when I was watching your video, there was a lot that I really agreed with. And when it comes to your Mindbender rotation, it's not that bad. You're getting 6 torments often. You're getting 7 sometimes. I'm not sure if you got an 8 or not, but your rotation is fine. And that is a pretty hard thing to do. But the areas where I want to see improvement are in more of the nuances. I don't think you're doing the small things well. For one example, your utility spells, like your minor spells. Let's just go through here these real quick. So this, your weak R HUD here in the middle, I don't like it. I'd recommend getting mine for many reasons. Feel free to ask if you want some follow-up. But your PI, I think you only played it 3 times out of the whole key, which is not enough. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to do better with this. Also, your Pain Sup, I believe you only used it once. So in a 19, again, you don't really need them, but you need to use them and practice as if this is a higher key if you want to time higher keys. And then your Dispel, you missed it in a handful of really important moments. You missed your Dispel. Your Feather, I'll talk about that too when we get going, but don't lay them down regularly. You need an @player macro for this. You need it. And then I think you're playing Fade fine. I don't think you played Fear once. And although this isn't like a major dungeon for fears, you should definitely be playing it, if nothing else, to get shades off you. I saw a lot of times you were just running from them. I'd like to see more play on Tendrils. And when it comes to the Incorporeal this week, I'm not sure you got even one. I'll retract that once we get going if I see you get one. But I don't think you got one as a healer. You definitely need to start trying to get most of them. I don't think it's your job to get all of them, but getting most of them is a great idea. And back to this HUD for a second, it just isn't the best layout if you ask me. We really want Penance and Death to be next to each other because of how they work with Mindbender. So having those separated isn't really helping you. Talking about Mindbender, I believe you use LVUI, which is not something I recommend anyone do. But I know there are people that like it, and I'm not saying you need to delete LVUI, but you do need to turn on your totem frame. So as a Discipline Priest, it is all about our Mindbender. More specifically, it's about like tracking his timer. So every 30 seconds when I send my Mindbender out, my eyes are glued to one spot on my screen, and that's my Mindbender's totem frame, his duration. You have that actually disabled, it looks like. I think you do have one on your screen that is a weak aura, but the thing about Mindbender and the reason you must use the default UI for him is that there is no API for the totem's timer. Therefore, a weak aura is never going to do it accurately. So you really want to have the totem frame open. I believe that is a setting in LVI, so just turn that on. Looking at these spells, I think you only play Barrier once or twice. Definitely can play it more. It's not necessarily a spell you need to keep on cooldown, but in preparing for higher keys, definitely want to get used to playing that more. Your Rapture, same deal. You were not playing it enough. So food for thought, keep in mind that every shield you cast reduces the cooldown of Pain Sup. Raptures count. So we need to be playing Pain Sups more and playing Rapture more. 1 for the shields, 2 to get the synergy with the cooldown effect with Pain Sup, and then PI. Let's just stop and talk about that for a second. With your UI in general, and I'm going to try and talk about every little piece maybe as we go. I'm going to do this stop and go. I guess we'll just see. But with your PI, we need to play it every 2 minutes. And these dungeons play well playing it on cooldown. You don't just want to send it, which I saw you doing quite a lot. You want to pair it with your allies' offensives. And that is where we can talk about Omni CD. So your UI has too much. Really, I would like to see your UI look more like mine, to be honest, and I hope that doesn't sound too conceited. But you have my bars here, which is great, but I really want to see more. Actually, I take that back. I want to see less. You have too much on your screen. So perhaps look at one of my videos and try and pick up and model your UI after mine in at least a couple more ways. But with the goal of maximizing PI and timing it with our allies every 2 minutes, Omni CD is a great tool for us. And I see a lot of people do this, like with weak Rs too, but they'll start turning on all these spells thinking, like I'm guessing here the ideology behind it is, oh, let me see these, let me track all these different spells, so I think that's going to help me. But what I think is actually happening is when you have more on your screen, it begins to actually hurt you. I definitely think with a UI, less is more. So like, for example, your PI, I saw you cast it once. I'll try and point it out more when we get going, but you cast it on the Hunter and it was not even in time with his Bestial Wrath. So my Omni CD only has my allies' offensives. That's it. I think there's exceptions for tanks, but I'd really like to see just one icon per DPS. You don't need these. There's really, I don't think any case where knowing that your Shadow Priest has a defensive up is going to help you. Not to say defensives aren't important, but with my bar setup, I have an icon that pops up right here that shows if a defensive is active. So that's important. That's what we need to watch for when it comes to, setting our priorities in the moment. Tracking these spells, there's nothing you can do to make him play this, and there's nothing knowing that it's available will really help you with. And I can take that one step further to say, if your Shadow Priest is targeted with a single target attack, the cast time is going to be, maybe 1.2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. In WoW, as a Disc Priest, what you would do is Pain Sup him, shield him. You don't have the time and don't want to waste the brain power first querying, oh, does he have a defensive up? Because if he does, I'm going to not heal him. Like, you don't have time for that, and that's not really what the play calls for anyway. If he is targeted with something, yes, all I'm saying is I would really like to see one icon per ally, and I have an Omni CD profile you can download. Okay, so let's see. Food for thought when it comes to this weak R you have for your action bars. I would get rid of it. I don't like it at all. I have one if you want to try mine, but mine is designed in a very specific way to help me play my spells better. So feel free to ask me follow-up questions on that if you'd like, but I'm going to move on. And then also food for thought. I would rather these be actual action bars, not a weak R representing the cooldowns of your spells. So like, I'm going to talk about redundancies a lot. You have a lot of redundancies here in your UI. And the more we can open up screen space, the better, always. That's a one-for-one trade. So I see your Desperate Prayer here, Omni CD. I see it in the weak R, and you actually have it here. That's your binding. So instead, I'd like to see this as your actual action bars, have this reduced, not only is that going to help you, it's going to open up your screen. And I definitely believe the more of your screen you can see, the better as a healer. Okay, so then this subject of party nameplates, you need to see those as a bar, health bar. So I think that's a setting in one of your add-ons. You have it name only for friendly. You want to see that bar. So like it's for two main reasons. One main reason, two reasons total. Is so we need to be able to see where our team is in the field to maximize our radiance. A handful of your radiance were not maximized, and that is bound to happen. Not every radiance is going to be perfect, but there is a strategy to maximizing it. And with your UI, you can't. So I really need to see which one of these allies is which class at a glance. I can't take the time to say, okay, Loki, which one's he? Oh, he's the hunter. I need to see Loki as green. I need to see anxiety as white. So if you turn those bars on, it's really going to help you. And in talking about radiance, it's a short range heal. So it only spreads 30 yards. Your max range is 40. So in other words, it's very common that you're going to miss somebody in your group if you're not trying to hit the person in the middle of your cluster. And a maximized radiance is black and white, hits all 5 people. And you have a lot of times where you only hit 4. And the recoil of that is, oh, now I have to stop attacking. I have to flash heal them. I have to renew them. It's just you're eating globals, wasting time. We want to be smiting as much as possible. And that's for our Mindbender. Okay, let me keep going here. We might could start playing a second. I really want to see different nameplates. I don't like these at all. A suggestion, try my KUI nameplates. I think it's a much better system than what I see here. Yours are way too cluttered. We don't want overlap in our UI. We don't want redundancies. I see some overlap here. And when we get going, so this area of your screen, I would call it like top center, or call it whatever you want. But this is reserved for our nameplates. And right now you have big wigs splashing here. You have weak R's splashing here. You have all your nameplates splashing here. You have weak R's tied to your nameplate splashing here. This area becomes so cluttered, it's almost useless. You really, your nameplates and your ally plates are very, very important. You want to see those as easily and as clearly as possible without having to like work for it. So, yeah, try my KUI nameplates. I think it'll be a lot better for you. All enemies are a shade of red, and it's really good on this week because I have enemies red, shades are gray, so there's a really easy color coding system here. And then another thing your nameplates are not doing, which you have to have, is an easy way to see when they hit execute range, which is 20%. With my KUI nameplates, they're all a shade of red. When they hit 20, they shift white. And then, yeah, just try it. Reach out if you have any specific questions about that, but it's all linked. KUI nameplates will be a lot better for you than this. Then, yeah, I think we're about to hit play here, and we'll just talk as we go. The last thing I want to say is you have another weak R here. You'll see it when we start. It's fleeting icons that move around, change, like flash at you, tracking your passives. It's unnecessary. You need to turn that off. Let passives be passives, and let's like open that screen space more. The closer we get to your tune, left, right, top, center, the more valuable we need to keep it just completely open. We don't want something down here flashing at us. It becomes a distraction. So, okay, let me look here. Let me look. Yeah, let's just start the key. Thanks for listening, and let's see what we find. Okay, we can pause for a second. Your stats looked okay. Your haste was, actually, let me just back that up. Your haste looked a little low. Oh, shit. My stats are in the crit is high 30s. This is good. You could probably take out some mastery. It's not as great for Mythic Plus. So if you could bank instead into crit haste primaries, verse is a secondary depending on your key level. Let's see. Okay, you're buffed. I'd rather see, I think the screen directly left and right of your tune is very important. I would rather see your quest tracker up here. Top corner, kind of out of the way. The corners are least
5,
valuable.
4,
This is
3,
not as valuable as
2,
center, but it's still valuable.
1.
You can move that. Yeah, I really don't like LVY. Consider dropping LVY. So I watched your first play a couple times to make sure I saw what happened, and your rotation with your Mindbender was fine. But a couple things happened.
Bloodlust.
Okay, I just want to pause here for 1 second, and then I promise we'll watch. But when I said this part of the screen is highly important for your nameplates. Nameplates are, I mean, they're just very important. The reason in bigwigs you want to turn off these messages is because as a ranged tune, they're going to compete. These words that are popping up in bigwigs are worthless. I really don't think the messages really do any purpose except maybe for the last boss of Darkheart Thicket. But for all these minor casts coming from a minor pull, you don't want these. I mean, because this is going to be flashing on your screen the entire key. It's just simply unimportant information, especially if the choice is, do I want to see my nameplates clearly or see things, unimportant information on top of my nameplates? I think you get what I'm saying. The gummy's kicking in, but this is much better for the nameplates. We need to turn off, like you have this weak aura, like we see all the buffs of the mobs is unimportant. And then you have a weak aura for tracking their cooldowns. That's very important, but you're using it the wrong way. So similar to bigwigs, which I'll talk about, we want less is more. So we want to track as few things as possible. And when it comes to like the bars we track, we want as few bars, we want as few audibles. We really want audibles reserved for attacks that you need to dodge. It's important to know that the cast began or the attack began. So you can cue that with an audible and then reduce all these other audibles. Mainly what we want is, I would call this alert fatigue. You have so much going on, all of these beeps coming from bigwigs. Your brain becomes inundated with it and starts to literally tune it out. And this add-on, which is supposed to serve as an alert add-on, a warning type of add-on, your mind's now tuning it out. So we need to use it for its purpose, turn off as much as we can. So when we get select beeps from bigwigs, we know what it is and know that it means to dodge. And that's kind of my philosophy. All of these minor spells, we don't want to see them. Really important we see your nameplates. And then, oh yeah, I devolved, but like we have a weak art for tracking enemy cooldowns. Very important, but in a pull like this, you don't really need to track any. I will revisit that subject later. But like what I would rather see on your nameplates is just tracking your dot, which is very important. So imagine a completely clean nameplate and either can have an icon, your dot, or no icon. And it makes it really easy to find which mobs are missing your dot. And I reference that, or I say that now because your dot activity is kind of bad. And I think if your nameplates served a little bit better of a purpose to like help you with your dot uptime, I think you do it better. Does that make sense? I don't know what I'm saying. I'm pausing. So that was a radiance that missed one of your party, bound to happen, but this is because you didn't cast it on the right person. There is usually always a best person, need party nameplates. And then another, God, I have to shut up eventually, but never a good idea generally to radiance at the top of a pull like that. I don't see you do this any in the key, but if you flash heal into a renew or shield, so the atonement is backloaded on flash heal, front loaded on the other one, and it puts 3 atonements at the same length that are longer. I hope that makes sense to you, but it's a really nice utility to flash heal into a instant atonement. And I don't see you doing that any. I think you're relying on your radiance too much. Also, perhaps you don't have enough dots out before you sent your Mindbender, but here is your first Mindbender. Let's count your torments. 2 torments. So you do have my torment tracker here, which is great. So we're at 3 torments. This icon's unnecessary. We're at 4 torments. We got 5, 6 torments. That's pretty good. 6 is base. You want to aim for 8. And that death there, I would say, is 2 people's fault. You did not run from that shade, and you missed a dispel. Gosh, I'm pausing again. So your group doesn't have a poison dispel. I would say that's maybe something to note and to learn from. I never, ask my friends, I never come to Everbloom without at least 1 poison dispel because it is our weakness. We don't do poison. We have to rely on somebody else to do it. Your group doesn't have one, so like in the grouping phase, I would have said something about it. I wouldn't have come in here without a poison dispel. So you died to a poison, but also a shade was attacking you. Again, imagine if all your shades were a different color than your mobs. Makes them really easy to see, and also have a weak R that glows their nameplate if they're on you. So you have something similar but has an icon. Again, my philosophy is if I can have 1 less icon on my screen, the better. I'd rather just see it glowing if I'm selected. And I have videos of that, but it's up on my Wago. I think you'd like it. Sometimes also when I'm running in like that and the team is far from me, I'll radiance the first person in range just to kind of like hit everyone. See how many dots you get. Yeah, in this group right here, I can't tell where your dots are. There's so many icons and so many words.
Debuff.
You got 3 torments. Okay, you only had 5 of 6 as our base, so you missed some. I think your rotation has a little bit more room to grow. As a comparison, I almost never miss 6 torments. So any of these where you're getting 5 or less, and I really want to see you use Flash Heal and Renews more. I always try and keep Renew on the tank. And here's food for thought too. So you have 2 timers on your screen for the incorporeal. You have their timer when they're up, which is competing in this very important space. You also have this predictive timer here. This is one thing where I think, again, like less is more. So like, I don't think you need to track this necessarily. I think reacting to incorporeal is just fine. You don't need to track all this. You don't need to track all these things on the nameplates. So you just have too much on your screen. And the reason I stress UI so much is because per poll, you know, we have hundreds of, on the fly decisions we have to make. We need to be able to very easily access the information we need without having to first pick through. It's like a needle in a haystack in here trying to find which ones have your dot. We need that to be more obvious, and a cleaner UI is going to help you do that and help you make the best decisions in any given moment. Okay, you're at 4 torments. Let's see if you get your 6, 5, 6. Okay, that's base. Yeah, and here's an example. So that's the second time you were whacked on by a shade. You have a weak aura for it, but you're not really using it. I mean, I guess there's a chance you just didn't see it, but I think when their nameplate glows, it is a better effect and is easier to see. Okay, Mindbender's out. Yeah, it's too much. So, also food for thought, maybe consider your text, your combat text going back to normal. And then like on the cast bars, when it shows the icon of the cast, it shows who the cast is targeted on. It's just too much. All you need to see is the cast bar. As a discipline priest, you could fear this guy, you could root this guy. Yeah, I'd really just like to see less. So you have my weak aura that highlights the unit frame of a targeted cast. I would call it a redundancy for your nameplates to also give you that data. That data is not good enough. I need to see where or which ally it's on. So reducing what your UI is doing here and just relying on the weak aura, I would say is the better call. Okay, great. So I was confused the first time this happened, but he was stuck in the wall. But I want to take this time to talk about maybe your bigwigs. So the only thing we need to track as a bar timer is brittle bark. These other things, the parched gasp, you don't need to see it because my targeted cast weaker will show you that. Then the unchecked growth, maybe leave on an audible cue for it, but you don't need to see the timer. Yeah, I can see keep going about this, but like if you saw the brittle bark as your only timer, you wouldn't have to first query or like wonder which of my timers is the brittle bark, because that's the one you're waiting for. I'd rather just see one timer. So on bosses, to the best I can, I just track one timer, bar timer. I keep audibles on. I think those are important. This boss is weird because tracking brittle bark's bar timer is not for healing purposes, it's for damaging purposes, which you could have parsed higher on this boss. There was quite a bit of room for you to do more. That's one note. Oh wait, we already talked about that. So when he frontals on Tyrannical, it's not a bad idea to shield him. So you have this targeted cast weak R that's highlighting your tank's frame, but you're not reacting to it. So in a case like this, it would be a shield. Maybe pre-casting a flash heal, so this would be a shield. Boom, you would have lessened it. Not a big deal in a 19, but important. Okay, so Brittle Bark is upon us. What you could do here to get most out of your Schism is double Radiance. Yeah, so your Mindbender is a little bit early. You didn't get any harsh discipline value on your Schism. And the reason I'm voting for a double Radiance is because we're getting increased damage here by a lot. And our Schism is often too short to get 2 values of harsh discipline on it. So I'll bank to waste my mana, and then I have an 8 bolt penance that fires straight into the Schism, and that is the best you can do. And then also, per Brittle Bark, ooh, you're dying a little bit. Per Brittle Bark, you really want to try and get 2 Mindbenders out, and again, this is for the damage. Okay, there's your second one. But your first one is early, and then your second one looks a little late. Here. Actually, you're getting good value. I'm not sure about your uptime there. If you want to check me, feel free. But as soon as one Mindbender ends, you really want to send the next one immediately. So your Mindbender just came available. Oh, and you sent it. That was really good. Yeah, you really want that thing pumping constantly, generally, especially here. You're at 4 torments, 5 torments. See if you get your 6th. I think you missed it. Yeah, you should never want to miss 6. 6 is always possible. This is in my way, I feel like, whatever weak R that is. And again, this would have been as a ramp, if you will. I would have double cast Radiance for my Mindbender to have an 8 bolt penance on the Schism. I don't think you got harsh discipline value on your Schism there either. But yeah, so I only track Brittle Bark here because it is my pump phase. A little bit different than other bosses, but I do see your Mindbender is open. He is available. You're not sending. Yeah, you definitely could have gotten one here. And the beautiful thing about Tyrannical Weeks for us is you can always get an 8 torment on bosses because they sit in execute range long enough for you to get all these extra torments. So to get the 7th torment, I think you know this, is resetting your execute. But if you get a reset at the front of your window and at the back of your window, you get 8. So always shoot for 8 on Tyrannical bosses. You always can. Oh, another thing, food for thought. I'm going to pause before we go here. This is my favorite dungeon to get my double Dark Star, I call it. So it is possible to get 2 Dark Stars. I definitely think Star is the way to go for Mythic Plus over Halo. But so imagine if you Mindbender Star immediately. This will reset before your Mindbender ends as long as you're getting 6 torments. So what I'll do is Mindbender Star, go through the rotation, and then Star comes back available while it's still buffed by Dark. And on average, you're going to be getting more stars out that way that are buffed. So food for thought, all of these pulls are great for double Star. Let me take that back. The pulls you just finished are really good for double star. Up here, it's nice if you can work it in, but the front half of the dungeon is great for double dark star. Hell yeah. Okay, let's see. We should be opening with dots. Okay, that was bad. So watch that again, but I'm going to pause. But you dotted, Mindbender. The last thing you should do before Mindbender, at least, you want to flash heal someone and renew the tank. So I like having renews on the tank. So imagine if you flash heal your shadow friend, renew tank, all three of you are going to have a full 15-second atonement on you for the Mindbender. So you really want to set yourself up for success. While the Mindbender is out, you just want to DPS. That's all you want to do. You don't want to break for these, fresh new atonements. So you want to bank long atonements on at least yourself and the tank by a flash heal on an ally, then Mindbender. Also, sometimes just to bank extra harsh discipline, I drop a radiance like wastefully, flash heal renew, and then I can go into my Mindbender with a proc. But you really never want Mindbender out with a dry party. You want atonements out first. And I think that might have just been a mistake. But let's see how you recover. Yeah, you radianced early. So, I think you know this, but our tier set doubles our CDR while we're in Shadow Covenant. So our smites are very valuable. And if you can dodge putting a radiance in your Mindbender window, that means you're going to get at least one more smite, which is more CDR. And while we're aiming for high uptime with Mindbender, it's all about CDR. So instead, I would have liked to have seen some atonements out first, go into your Mindbender, and you're just attacking. My best Mindbenders, I feel like, I send them out. I do, I think your rotation's fine, but Mindbender, Mind Blast, Penance, Death, and then I smite, and try and get to my second Penance, put it on cooldown before I do any sort of re-atoning. So open with atonements, then Mindbender, try and get 2 Penance out before you work in your first Radiance. And what you did is you almost Radianced at the top. You're losing CDR, you're losing damage. Yep. Hope that made sense. Oh, and here's a really good example I wanted to highlight. When I was talking about your nameplates have the cooldowns of all your enemies' attacks, these are irrelevant. The only thing that matters is this green one. It's called the growth, enraged growth. So imagine, as a comparison, you have just, our rectangular nameplates, none of this text, none of the target text, none of the bigwigs text. All you have are your dots and one icon showing the enraged growth because you're not timing your heals properly. So in a pull like this, I would have waited until this was closer, probably 5 or 6 seconds out. Then I would have sent my Mindbender. So in a pull like this, you need to time your Mindbender around this green attack, enraged growth. And I'd have to back up a little bit. Actually, let's just back up and see what happened. Zoom in here. So yeah, there's so much going on. My UI as a comparison, I also track the jumps, but that's like specialty. You really should only be tracking the enraged growth, and that's for the timing of your heals. Okay, where is it? I'm having to look for it. There it is. Okay, the timer's over here though. So an icon over here is for the cast icon, and then this is the timer. It's actually doubled up with another one. Looks like it's at 5, 4, 3. Yep, and here's our second enraged growth. Oh, it died. Well, that's the idea. I think you get the idea. In a 19, you can get away with it, but in higher keys, I will delay my Mindbender a little just to get value, better value with the enraged growth. And that was a good shackle. So 10 points for getting that for the team. Okay, that was a Tendrils. Bounding Whirl. So in this pull, as a comparison to my UI, I have 2 audibles on and bigwigs. one for the bounding whirl. It's one sound. And then I have the eruption as a different sound. So what I do with that is, I think you get where I'm going with this, but I can read the pull and know exactly what's happening using my sense of hearing. And it's a really good advantage to kind of like know what's happening based on sound. Food for thought. Because like you also had sounds on for like the heal, and like you had icons for the heal. You don't need to hear that one. You don't need to see that one. Just let it happen. It's an opportunity for fear if you'd like. But other than that, yeah, if you were to compare my bigwigs, reach out if you want like more notes on bigwigs. I have, I think, 65% of it totally disabled. Mindbender's out. Let's see how this goes. Okay, you're in the AMZ. That's good. I would have loved to see a double dark star here. Okay, you're working in a latter half radiance. That's great. We're at 5 torments. 6 torments. Okay. That was pretty good considering it's a large pull. But I would have liked to see more CDR gained. Okay, you did not have barrier. You went for a rapture. But yeah, food for thought. If you had gotten more CDR in that first Mindbender, you would have had heals out sooner for the next attack. Where things got a little dicey, honestly. Okay, in that moment, I would have reached for Shadow Word Death. Please play that back, but you had full atonements in group and you lifed somebody. Good reactions, but with everyone atoned and a mob in execute range, Shadow Word Death would have been a better answer. Yeah, watch that back. I mean, it was a good life, but you had a better play. And that was the death. So in here, I can't exactly tell where the eruption is. Okay, there it is. And this is redundancy. You have the debuff here, you have the debuff here. Trying to reduce redundancies. Your pet frames are totally covered by all these extra icons.
AOE.
I'm not even sure. Okay, so it's going to kind of be hard for me to see this because of your nameplates. Sorry about that. But per poll, the idea I'm trying to get across here is I think you're targeting the wrong person. Per poll, there is an ideal target to attack. We don't do that much as a healer, but with our, our schism and all of our dark reprimands, we can, significantly help kill the most threatening one. And I think you were on a cultivator when you should absolutely be targeting the abomination. And if you try my KUI nameplates, the system I have is all of our enemies are a shade of red. The darker the red, the more threatening. So imagine a full group of like average medium red mobs, and then one is a dark red. That's the abomination. Well, shit, that's not the best example. I have my A-bombs as green. The berserkers are as a dark red. But anyway, I think you're not attacking the best person in this pull. You should be on the abomination. Let's see how you finish it out. I'll see if I can spot that in your other pulls. But usually the most threatening has the most health. So that's kind of my reasoning behind making sure I'm on the best person. Wide radiance. Yeah, good. You should be attacking. No, you should be attacking. Full atonements in group. I wouldn't do that yet. Yeah, you had full atonements and you were flash healing. I would say that is not best use of atonements in that scenario. They pulled. You gotta run. At player feather. So the way I would do this is atone everyone, dot everyone, mindbender. Okay, so you went into this mindbender with no dots. You were at kind of a disadvantage being behind. But like, yeah, you always want to have dots active and working in your favor. before you atone and before you mindbender. Like the front half of this is the hardest part. Imagine if you had 3 dots out returning as heals on everybody. It just helps a lot. Also in this front half, just like your ally did, he laid an AMZ. This front half, you really want to play your barrier while all 3 are up. You did play it, but it was after 1 was dead. So I always plan a barrier at the front end of this fight, and I plan it after a move. So in Discord, I'd be calling, okay, I'm about to lay a barrier. Barrier in 3, 2, 1. Boom. So you're being targeted. You're being highlighted on your bars. You did it a little bit late. There was your wall. So what I would have done is when I saw I was targeted, preemptively wall. You got a little bit low. You don't ever really want to spike. Yeah, and you have a lot of CDR that was missed. I think that's due to an improper ramp. I'm sorry, an improper atonement ramp. Ooh, get out of there. See, exactly. So that was not good. You want to play the barrier, and I actually didn't see that the first time, but you want to play the barrier after the move, exactly for that reason. You played it in a spot where no one could stand. This is a hard boss fight, but these are just, that's all what I'm seeing. Yeah, you still don't have dots out. I'm not sure if you got dots up at all. Yeah, I noticed your dot time, uptime is pretty low.
3, 2, 1.
I really think that if you cleaned up your nameplates and tried my method, it would help you with that. Because one of the primary focuses, primary purposes of my nameplates are to help me track dots. That's one of the only things it does. And that's why I have really good dot uptime. But yours are doing too much. I don't think you can really see. I think you know what I'm saying. I just think your system could use improving. We've not talked about PI yet. But yeah, so you could get better at PI by reducing this. Omni CD. Okay, so in a group like this, I would say you want to schism and attack the Pyromancer. Okay, you're on the Arcanomancer. Not the best target, not the worst target. See how your torments do. 3, 4. 5, 6. Hell yeah. So that's what you're doing really well. I think if you just start, Mind Soothe. I think if you start Flash Heal into a Renew. Yeah, you're going kind of manual here. Sometimes you have to go manual, but with Penance up and with Death up, I'd be attacking the enemies because you had atonements. You would call it potentially over-atoning. Is the word for it. And attack the Pyromancer. Okay, there you go.
Avoid. AoE.
Mindbender should be out. He's not out yet. Yeah, so in this pull, let me just pause. This is kind of hard. So, gosh, there are just so many icons here. Like, I know what we need. Let me just say that differently. What we need to track here is the fire attack. We need to know when it's happening so we can time our heals appropriately. It's in here, but I have to like find it first, you know what I mean? And it's this one. Oh, actually, I don't even think it's that one. I think it's at the other side, but it's just covered up or something. So I have the Ice Caller's attack turned on with an audible. That's it. The Arcane one, I have it turned on with an audible. That's it. I see their timers. Actually, maybe I don't see it. Well, that's up for debate. But we definitely need to see this attack to time our Mindbender. He should have been out 3 or 4 seconds ago, but you just cast him. Yeah, so in a pull like this, we have to time our spell with the fire. That would be more obvious for you to see if you reduced everything else. Okay, I think the point's made. So it looks like he's 6 seconds away, 5 seconds. So you should already have atonements in the group. Regular atonements. You did a Radiance, but I want to see regular. And you should have the Mindbender back. And let me just pause for a second. A lot's about to happen. So in between fire attacks, it's like this in a lot of cases. they are far enough apart for you to get your spells back. You know, the game's not trying to pin you in a spot where you don't have spells, but you didn't play it optimally. So between fire attacks, well, for one, you were late, then you missed CDR. So between fire attacks, the goal is let me get this back. So you have to smite your ass off. You have to smite and penance and drop everything else. Drop atonements. Well, you need to have your atonements already. You know, I definitely drop death because it doesn't help CDR. So if this guy's on cooldown, prio 1, get him back. And an attack like that fire spell, you can get him back in time. So you want to play this a little bit earlier and you want to farm him back before it goes off again. You were caught here with your pants down because he's blasting fireballs at everybody and you don't have your best spell, the Mindbender. And people are dying. That's a dispel. So you have my weak aura. That's a great start, but you're not reacting to it. So this solid border means dispel. Let me just add some deaths.
Avoid.
Okay, so dispels, those are more minor. Not a bad idea to get them anyway, but where it's really important is on the boss. So I'll talk about it in advance here, but on the boss, people can get frozen in ice cubes, and it's pretty much a wipe unless you have quick reaction time. It will pop up with a blue border showing you can dispel the ice block. And like whenever that ice is out, imagine like I'm hovering my finger on my dispel because I'm waiting for someone to get accidentally hit so that I can very quickly dispel them. Long-winded, but what I'm saying is you had a couple people get ice blocked, including your tank. You did not dispel them at all. So a better play would be to dispel them very quickly, and you totally missed it. So these blue borders are dispels for magic. There'll be green borders if it's a disease. What are y'all talking about? I'd soothe everything. Yeah, that shit should be soothed, bitch.
No, you can't. I can't fight it.
There you go. So on a boss like this, let me just pause. I'll just let it run. So on higher keys, it's going to get harder and harder and harder. The best thing you can do, like the most heals you can pump, is a double proc Harsh Discipline, which is a total waste of mana, devs. But going into this boss right now, I'm already radiancing. The reason I'm doing that is because the Harsh Discipline is a 30-second buff. We're going to pull in less than 30 seconds. But another thing to keep in mind is we want our radiance to start coming back. Wait, where is your radiance? Am I tripping out? You don't have your radiance? Oh, okay. Well, so radiance is a 20-second cooldown. You want to cast them early for the proc and to go ahead and let your radiance start refreshing. But yeah, I don't see radiance on your screen. Not noticed that until now. But yeah, definitely try my action bar HUD. It has radiance on there. That is a very important spell to keep an eye on. But so double proc, pre-atone with long atonement. So like flash heal, renew, renew, renew. And then I have a double proc loaded. The first fire attack is almost instantly. So you want to just instantly send Mindbender, unload all your penance, death. Also on first, I play Desperate Prayer with Fade. I don't know where your spells are. But yeah, I've not seen you do a double proc yet. And it's the shitty thing about the way the devs made our spec right now for Mythic Plus. It's just shitty. It's a total waste of mana. And it's like, yeah, but I do a double proc here. Double proc, double proc.
Flee! The
Got.
fine! They control us all!
AoE.
Mindbender's out. That's good.
Burn away the contagion!
If that was good, it would have been better with a proc. So the next one comes back quick. Really prio CDR here, but the second one I always reach for Rapture actually. And then I send Mindbender after Rapture.
3.
So I flash heal into Rapture for the same reason.
Avoid.
It also procs your defensive. Yeah, everyone got low there. Rapture would have helped. So this is an interim before the next fire. Yep, there you go. So you want a Mindbender here.
3, 2, 1. Dodge.
Get away!
There's an example of the Dispel. Okay, I'm just going to pause it for a second. That's not even what I'm talking about. But it's a good idea to get in the habit of baiting. I think the healer should. And actually, I think it's kind of easier to bait. You get more freedom. So start doing that. And then just while I'm paused, so the arcane attack, fire attack, ice attack, I have the same sounds from the trash. So I'm trying to have this correlation to where whenever I hear one sound, I know it's the ice. Yeah, I guess just keep going.
Take you too.
What I'm talking about. Cheater. Yeah, I don't know about these weak R's that pop up here. If that helps you, I think it's totally fine to like keep it, you know what I mean? But maybe move it here. Like, cause we just see how it's completely totally on top of the boss's nameplate. You just don't want that competition at all.
3.
I would have lifed. You can always grab a life on a res.
Will burn away the contagion.
So everyone's, so that was, well, you have a double proc here. That was kind of an over atonement. I would have attacked. Everyone was atoned and you went for another radiance. Okay, but this is a move.
1.
Only the cold will make them wither.
Avoid.
You were doing good. You had a big proc on that one. I guess the point I'm trying to make is with the way the spec works right now, sometimes you have to like fish for procs. I guess that's not even right. Oh,
3,
yeah,
2, 1. Dodge.
Get away!
I intentionally do a double proc. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. This is Dispel, your tank's in trouble. Blue border on his frame.
Three, 2,
Let's see.
AoE.
Nice here.
Fire will burn away the contagion.
Your Radiance missed your Shadow Priest. That was a hard one though, in all honesty, but it did not hit all 5. Also with your bigwigs, I'd really rather see those together. Is this bigwigs? I think if it's not bigwigs, you should use bigwigs. But I like to see a long duration timer followed by the short duration as a bigger one. Kind of have like a tier system. Right now yours are separated. It's almost as if you're not valuing this one, but to be honest, with a 30 seconds cooldown spell like Mindbender, our 30-second counter is very important, so we need to have it in a more visible place.
2, 1.
Only the cold will make them
Avoid.
wither.
There's one area I think you like kind of just
It's the only
maybe
way
panicked.
to stop them.
Barrier's not a bad play, but you should have played that preemptively. You will find most use out of discipline doing things ahead of time, preemptively. So with this next boss, it feels amazing on discipline. There is like the pattern of incoming damage to our rotation is like a perfect match. It feels so great when you get into the rhythm and you were not doing it right. So pretty much essentially every shatter, that big slam, you want to, just gonna pause. You want to precast a radiance on it. So as a healer, you never want people to be low for long. That's the idea. So if someone drops health, you want to get them up quickly. The lower the health, the more danger you are of dying, etc. So the quickest way you can recover health is precasting something on top of incoming damage. And the nice thing about Radiance being a long cast is it's very easy to precast on top of incoming damage. So with these shatters, it's also a long cast. You want to just, it's kind of like a skill you have to develop, just a sense of how long your your Radiance takes to cast. I think you get what I'm saying, but you want to precast your Radiance on top of the shatter, then cast Mindbender. and everything should line up perfectly that way. But you did not, I don't think you precast a Radiance on the damage once. It's definitely the play here, and it's definitely a skill to develop. You can even precast, I think I mentioned precast with a flash shield before. You can precast anything, but it's the quickest way to recover health. Okay, let's go. Dry mouth.
We've got its attention.
Oh shit. So I'm only tracking the below and verdant eruption. I'm not tracking Genesis. You have Genesis turned on with bigwigs.
Frontal.
Recast Radiance. Quick recovery.
Add.
Yeah, so the way it works, let me just pause real quick. We're about to have the damage phase. But when you precast Radiance on top of every shatter, the way it goes there, you might have to watch one of my videos, but your 5th and 6th torments have to happen after the Radiance, and the Radiance is still on top of the shatter. Oh my god, I hope that makes sense. I know that doesn't make any sense. Just watch one of my videos.
The vines are overtaking everything.
Bloodlust. Personal.
There's a precast of Radiance. Also, you're spec'd into Vampiric Embrace. I'm going to check that when we finish.
Collect.
But you should run that on the first one. So the way I call it in Discord with my friends is the first one I have green output, use your defensives.
2.
And then the next one is Rapture, so they don't have to use their defensives. And then it's back to this, and then it's back. And you notice I mean, it's like a back and forth. So your timing's not bad, it's just not best. Like, no one's dying, you're still getting the heals out, but it's not the best sequence.
Frontal.
So imagine here. Yeah, a precast Radiance.
Add.
Just better.
We are lost.
Oh, then also,
Bring us back.
yeah, so we talked about targeting a little bit earlier.
Personal.
I don't care if it's non-tyrannical. It's still everyone's job to attack that ad that pops up, and you're not switching to the ad. At least I don't think you did. You didn't there. I'm not sure about the other ones. Let's watch. But you want to put your Schism
3,
and all your single target into that ad. It has enough health
Adds.
where you're not going to have loss. It's just the right thing to do.
Frontal.
You're also missing your dot right now. A dot up. You always want to dot before atonements and before Schism. Dot goes first usually.
Frontal.
Yep. That
Add.
could have been a precast Radiance. Here comes the ad. Let's see if you attack him. Here's your Mindbender. Let's send that guy out.
Personal.
You should be Radiancing here.
That
Collect.
doesn't look good.
Yeah. So Mindbender's out. People, watch that one segment again, but Mindbender's out. People's atonements are dropping off. Your mid Mindbender, you have tons more to give. And you start flash healing. So what you should have done is found who's the most central ally in your cluster, Radiance them, and continue to attack. So you had, because again, you'd get a harsh discipline for your penance attack. So giant AoE heal. You have your Shadow Word Death, things like that.
Oh.
3, 2, 1. Adds. Frontal.
We just got Mindbender. I think we have to wait. Okay, send.
Frontal. Add.
Let's see if you get 8 torments here. Oh, he died. Okay, just while I'm thinking about it, let's pause. And I'm going to kind of skim through this video and let's see if you use Vampiric Embrace. Let me make sure I can see the full thing here. Oh, shit. Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Okay. So I'm going to skim through. Let's see if Vampiric Embrace hits cooldown once. No. Okay, so I did do this once to kind of like see your spells, and I talked about it earlier, but your Vampiric Embrace, you didn't use it once. If you're going to spec into it, you need to use it. It's not hard to use, but if you don't want to deal with one more button, just take the Leech. I use Vampiric Embrace. I think it's very, very good. It has no global, so what I do is I have a macro with Mind Blast. And then take that one step further. My keybind for Mind Blast regular versus Mind Blast with VE, it's the same button, change of modifier. So that's a philosophy I go by. Is it's kind of the same thing, just one is amped. So I have it as the same bind, just with different modifiers. It makes it really easy and seamless. But this adds to your AoE heal. It really doesn't do as much as it used to, but I still like it on tyrannical weeks. I think there's an argument maybe take Leech on fortified, but on tyrannical, I just really think VE is the way, and you should be playing that more. But I think I talked about everything I wanted to. Let me glance at my notes really quickly. Okay, I did make notes. Let's see. Okay, Mindbender. We talked about it. 6 as a base. You want to aim for 8 torments. We need to bring your Mindbender icon back, your totem icon. One suggestion, delete LVY, or at least turn on your totem frame. And then what I would do is that little weak R for the counter, put it like either on or next to your totem frame in a stationary place. Yeah, right now you have this weak R that like comes and goes, pops up, moves around. Weak Rs don't even track the time accurately. Just get rid of this whole bar with your passives. Yeah, just get rid of it. So you could be playing your shields more. I wrote down shields. We have this amazing weak R to show you there's an incoming attack on someone. Try and get into a habit of reacting to that with a shield. It's a great spell. You have Wheel and Woe. So, if you're sending your penance on cooldown, you have tons of opportunities to buff a single shield. Perhaps read the tooltip of Wheel and Woe again. But, we have this amazing UI to show us incoming single target damage, and we have an amazing single target heal if we're reacting to it. So, yeah, try and play your shields more. The more, the better. Same with Rapture. One example was on first boss, the Gasp, Parched Gasp. It's the Tank Slam. There's a ton of Tank Slams this season. You can shield those. Don't really need to, but I think it's kind of like fun for the RP of it all. And it does help in higher keys. Okay, then Omni CD and PI, that was my next note. I don't want to see any of this. It just really doesn't matter. It's not helping you play PI more. And that is what this add-on is best for, in my opinion. So you can download mine if you want, but turn off all except offensives for your allies. And then the idea here is, you can watch it in the last 30 seconds and be like, okay, great. I know next pull, we're going to be ready. And then as the pull begins, I watch for him to light up. I'm sorry, it's going to be this one. This is the Bestial Wrath in this example. As soon as it lights up, you ping PI. Or let's see, for your Death Knight here, you'd be tracking, I believe it's just this one, Empower Rune Weapon. It's different for different Death Knights, but just track this one. It's a 2-minute spell. PI is 2 minutes. You do the math. For a Shadow Priest, you don't need to track anything, but it would just be this one, for example. Let me give you another hypothetical, but if we had a Havoc, is that what they are? A DPS Demon Hunter, you'd only be tracking their meta. There are situations where possibly you could track the Fell whatever too, but I really just like one icon per, and it's really just to help me maximize PI, which you need to do a lot more. Yeah, you did not cast it enough. Food for thought. Recreate some action bars up here instead of having a redundancy, where it's here and here. So like these are your keybinds. These are just like icons. Try and make an action bar HUD out of your action bars. An alternative is maybe just download my Weakara for my HUD. I think it would do you a lot of good. I think you were kind of wasteful with your atonements. I wrote that down. Oh, I'm going to add it in after this, but we're going to look at some of your meters. But if people are atoned, you need to attack. Smite, if nothing else, usually. And I think there were a lot of cases here where you had good atonements in group and you were reaching for another radiance or you're reaching for flash heals. Not a super bad play, but you're going to get more out of your tune if you're attacking enemies in that situation. Then I wrote executes ? Because I couldn't see them. So if you get my KUI nameplates, it makes execute range incredibly easy to see. And Shadow Word Death in execute range is going to be our biggest heal we have. Not only because it increases it by 150, but because we also get 2 of them. And getting 2 of them is how we get all of our torments. So it's just, it kind of reverberates across our spec. We need to be able to see executes easily if we want to min-max our tune. We need to be constantly looking in the field for someone approaching 20. And as soon as they cross that threshold and their nameplate turns white, we zap them. So we're going to get so much more healing and damage. Honestly, it's more fun too. When you get those 7 torments, those 8 torments, those are a little bit more rare. But that's what we want to aim for, and better nameplates would help you with that. And then I wrote down, oh shit, I can't even read this. Holy shit, I can't even read that. So we're just going to the next one. So I wrote down feather. I will send you a macro of mine. Well, actually, I don't want to overcomplicate it. Just make a macro for @player. It's, I think, cast @player in brackets, angelic feather. You need to have it as a single action button. Like, you don't need to have that green thing come out, then place it in front of you. That is not the best way to use feather. It will change your life. You don't even have to change the keybind, but just make it a macro. Just a little insight. I have my speed boost on my mouse button 4. It's on my thumb, like the front side of my thumb. I only have a 5-button mouse. I think commonly speed boosts are put on your thumb. So mouse button 4 or 5. Food for thought. DBM. It's a really complicated subject. I'll show you some of my notes. Please ask me if you're interested, but we need to turn off a lot. So we need to turn off all messages flat out. Per boss, we really only want 1 bar timer. There are exceptions, obviously. And we want as few audible cues as possible. Turn off everything that's redundant and irrelevant and leave on attacks that you need to dodge. So, yeah, I'll show you my notes on that. And then I wrote .uptime. You did not have good .uptime, even on single target bosses where there's, if it's a single target boss, it should never fall off. You know, if it's those first pulls in here where it's like 25 mobs, it is not the right play to dot everything. But even that being said, your .uptime is poor. It is a pretty big play for us. We have, you know, something like penance, which spreads our dot. So it's always good to think about that. But we want to have our dot up. And I think better nameplates will help you with that. So, and then the last thing I said here was radiance and party plates. I kind of already talked about that, but radiance is a short range heal. We want it to hit all 5 members of our party. If it misses one, it's not maximized. The way you maximize a radiance is with party nameplates. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes you just throw a radiance. Sometimes you want to radiance someone specifically with low health. But there are a lot of cases where you have the time, and it's like of higher importance in that time to make sure you hit the right person. Oh my gosh, I'm being so long-winded right now. But you want party nameplates on. You want to see the class color bar on your allies so that you can correlate it to this. So if you see, like, let's say, for example, the red one is in the middle, you just go, boom, red. And that's your radiance. And make sure you hit all 5 people. And it's something no one's perfect at, but it's something to strive for. Maximizing your radiance. It will save your casts. And yeah. Okay, so that is the end of my notes. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. Maybe just generally. I think it's a crazy concept for a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people do it like this, but I think it is one of the best ways to play WoW. I have a system where I use my mouse for most of the work. Well, how about before I talk about that, on my keyboard, I mainly, 99% of my keyboard hand, my left hand, has one responsibility, and it's my movement. WASD. I have Q and E as their natural keybind to strafe. Movement is so important. It's equally as important as casting. You don't want your casts to have to compete with movement. So you don't want so much demand on a single finger where you're having to choose, do I move or cast? And I don't think your actions per minute were too bad here, but you can increase your actions per minute by putting your common spells, your attack spells, your combat spells on your mouse. Things that you have to press so frequently, you don't want them competing for your movement hand. So it's just food for thought. I do most of my casting in my mouse. A 5-button mouse, a system of clicks with modifiers, and my keyboard hand pretty much does all of my movement, except for steering, you know what I mean? So I right click and steer with my mouse, but all my mobility comes from my keyboard, and all of my, frequent cast combat spells comes from my mouse. Hope that made sense. It's something to think about. I would at least take, smite. I put it to mouse wheel forward. It's a button you press so frequently, you don't want to burden your keyboard hand with that. I could go on and on about that, but try and put some spells on your mouse. I think it only goes to increase your actions per minute, which will increase your output. But I think you did a lot good here. I think I talked about everything I wanted to talk about. I think the harder parts of this, the things that have to come with intuition, I think you're doing those great. And I think that's the harder part of it all. But it's these little things. You did miss some flat out mechanics. You missed some mechanics, but your rotation is fine. It's just these little subtle nuances, which I think your UI will help you with. The way I've designed my combat HUD here is to help guide your eyes to the spells you need. So I think with my combat HUD, you'll get more uptime with your spells, which was a big critique across the board. We didn't play any of these nearly enough, but you were getting your torments. So that is one really good note. You were getting 6 constantly. You got above 6, I think at least once, but you want to get 6 always and get 7 and 8 more commonly. And that's how you'll get more out of the spec. But other than that, thank you so much for booking the lesson. I think I gave you some really good points here. Feel free to take, I was going to say take notes, but if it's the end of the video, it's too late. But yeah, follow up with me with some questions. I'm happy to talk more about this. And so anyone who's watching this who's just a subscriber of mine, I am trying to put out a video of mine this week. I've just been busy. But keep an eye out. I think I have one more lesson. I'm going to do a video of mine, and we're going to have some activity on this channel again. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Noxile, for the lesson. I hope you learned some things. And until next time, Disc.